With the 24th overall pick in the NFL draft, the Minnesota Vikings select offensive lineman Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State. If you've been listening and following this podcast closely, you will have heard that the Minnesota Vikings were drafting an offensive lineman a long time ago, because that's what this podcast does. It reads the tea leaves before the information is actually released. Drafting an offensive lineman was of best interest for the Minnesota Vikings, and that's why I knew the Vikings would draft an offensive lineman. So as speculation arose about what position the Vikings would select, safety or corner or defensive tackle, the most obvious position the Vikings needed to shore up was left guard. And that's exactly what they did by drafting Donovan Jackson with their 24th overall pick. Now, it's an interesting pick, and we're going to dive into it because following the pick, there's a lot of reaction from a lot of big name people, including Nick Saban. So we're going to talk about that. But I need to tell you about 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis first, because they remodeled our entire bathroom in 48 hours. And it was absolutely incredible. 5-Star Bath Solutions took our old, disgusting, moldy bathroom with a step going into the shower, got rid of it all, gave us a double sink with a new vanity, and changed our ugly, disgusting, embarrassing, pathetic bathroom into the bathroom of our dreams, a true masterpiece. And we didn't have to wait 6 to 8 weeks for that to get done. And it wasn't more expensive than a regular bathroom remodel. Same price, best remodel of our life. Check out 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis today and get the bathroom remodel done that you've dreamed of. In 48 hours, free consultations available. 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis. Check them out today if you want your bathroom remodel done right and done conveniently for you. So check them out. So Donovan Jackson, 24th overall pick. This goes all the way back to the Vikings' loss against the Los Angeles Rams in the playoffs, when the Vikings' offensive line was eaten alive and not helped by Sam Darnold, who couldn't get rid of the football. Kevin O'Connell said that the most important thing to address this offseason was to make sure our offensive line is overhauled and replaced, especially on the interior. Well, what did they do? They draft Donovan Jackson, they sign Ryan Kelly, and then they also sign Will Fries. We're talking about 3 new offensive linemen in the interior of the Vikings offensive line. That's what you call an overhaul. And what I don't hear this offseason is the chemistry that's that's not gonna be there with the old offensive line. I guess you got Ryan Kelly and Will Fries on the same team last season. But last year, I remember that was a conversation about removing Ed Ingram. Well, what about the chemistry between Ed Ingram and Brian O'Neill and Garrett Bradbury? Like, there's more to it than just a guy that can play. Like, get out of here. If you can block, you can block. If you can play, you can play. Dalton Reiser stepped in just fine and played much better than Ed Ingram, which is why he never got benched when the Vikings put him in the game. So, some quick reaction about Donovan Jackson. This comes from Nick Saban. I love this guy as a player. This is a great pick. Called him the most athletic interior offensive lineman in the draft. Field Yates. Donovan Jackson to the Vikings just might be my favorite pick of the night. By the end of this past season, he had put on elite tape at both guard and left tackle. An extremely dependable, selfless player. He's tough, rugged, and athletic. Excellent football player. Which is also interesting because the Vikings sitting at 24, a lot of people predicted them to trade back because a lot of their top guys were gone. And I'm sure they were getting calls. Jordan Schultz, Ian Rappaport's best friend, even reported that the Vikings were receiving calls from teams trying to move in to that pick and select their quarterback that they wanted. The next pick, the Texans, they traded out of it. The next pick, the Rams, they traded out of 26. Which means the Vikings probably had a chance to trade down as well. But what I love about Kwesi's strategy is that he stayed put and drafted the best offensive lineman available for the Vikings at that moment. Don't trade down and pass up on a great talent if that's what Donovan Jackson is. Because let's be honest, we don't know if Donovan Jackson can play. We don't know if he's going to be a good offensive lineman. We hope, and people are saying good things. But it's also a calculated risk, and a big calculated risk. Head coach Kevin O'Connell says, "We see Donovan as a huge impact player for us in the inside." Oh, yeah, I hope so. You drafted him with the 24th overall pick. Donovan Jackson. KOC on Donovan Jackson. Again, we wanted to continue the theme of this offseason of attacking the offensive and defensive lines. Well, that's something that the Vikings did. The one problem that I have with all of this reaction post drafting Donovan Jackson is that he was drafted 24th overall, which is no terrible feat. Pretty good. I mean, 24th overall, first round pick out of Ohio State. But when I read these comments and I read the reaction by Nick Saban and Field Yates and Kevin O'Connell and Vikings insiders, it's like, you're talking like he's the number one overall pick. Oh, can't miss, best pick of the night. Oh, great decision by the Vikings. Which bothers me a little bit if I'm being 100% honest. Why are we talking about Donovan Jackson like he's a top 5 pick in the NFL draft when he was 24th overall? There were several teams that could have used an offensive lineman or drafted an offensive lineman and chose a different offensive lineman. I think about Tyler Booker, J.J. McCarthy's former teammate, getting drafted by the Dallas Cowboys. I think about the NDSU guy, North Dakota State, here we go, getting drafted a few picks before the Minnesota Vikings. And at 24, the Vikings were receiving calls, and it would not have been surprising if the Vikings traded down. Why? Because there weren't that many players available that would have interested the Vikings. I love that they stayed put and drafted their best player available, because the last thing you want to do is have a ton of regrets about passing on an all-pro superstar type talent at 24 that was available to you. Voila, Lewis Cine and the Hamilton fella drafted by the Ravens years back. So I love the Vikings' decision to stay put. But we're talking about Donovan Jackson as if he was a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. Like he was a can't-miss prospect coming out of this draft. It sounds like he's a selfless player. Sounds like he moved position at Ohio State, and it could have impacted his draft stock, but it obviously really didn't. But he took the chance to do what was best for the team because he said, all I wanted to do was win. So it sounds like a good culture guy. It sounds like a good teammate. Sounds like a guy that's willing to sacrifice for the team so that the team can win games, which is great. Sounds like he's not going to be a troublesome locker room player. And what's cool is that he's going to be next to Christian Darrisaw and next to Ryan Kelly, which should help him develop quicker. And it should help him be more confident. And it also should help him look better. Because if you're next to a terrible left tackle and you're next to a Garrett Bradbury type center, you're probably going to be exposed more than if you are next to Christian Darrisaw and Ryan Kelly. So I like this pickup by the Vikings. I'm glad they drafted an offensive lineman to make sure that McCarthy is protected at all costs. It was the logical decision, and a decision that I've been really saying the Vikings would do all offseason. However, can we just push back against the idea that this was the can't-miss prospect of the draft that fell all the way down to number 24? And it's not like he's a Randy Moss or an Aaron Rodgers that has entitlement or off-the-field problems and he fell down to 24. It's not like he had some mark in his history where it's like, you're grabbing the player, but he also has this past of a DUI or a drug problem or punching teammates or not getting along with coaches. He just fell to 24 just because. A selfless player that sacrificed to go to left guard fell to 24, which, it's a first-round pick. It's fine. But let's not act like he's just this best pick of the draft on day one. Like he's just a can't-miss player. That's the only thing that bothers me about it. I like the pick. I think it's a good pick. And it's something that I've been saying for a long time. But when I see Nick Saban say stuff like, I love this kid as a player, this is a great pick, fine. When I see Field Yates say, might be my favorite pick of the night. He's tough, rugged, athletic, excellent football player, dependable. We're talking about this guy like he's the number one overall pick in the draft. I'm sure he has holes and weaknesses in his game if he fell all the way down to 24. And he didn't just fall down to 24, but it was reported that the Vikings considered moving back. So, I'm not criticizing the Vikings pick. And I'm not even criticizing Donovan Jackson. What I'm criticizing is people's response to the draft pick, that it was a can't-miss player at 24 when other teams had an opportunity to draft him earlier. Anyway, that's all my point is. I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm not trying to be critical. But when everybody is so like gushing, I love it. I'm spilling out my heart for this player. I like to find myself in the middle. And when everyone's like, oh, this sucks, it sucks, season's over, we're done, we have no chance to win, I like to find myself in the middle. If you listen to this podcast continuously or consistently, you get that feeling from me. Nothing is as ever good as it seems, and nothing is as ever bad as it seems. I'm in the middle. Unless I come with a hot take. That happens sometimes too. Thank you for watching. Remember, 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis is the best go-to bathroom remodel that you could ever find in your entire life. Check them out today. Thank you for making this podcast part of your day. Hit that subscribe button. Talk to you later.